Negative self-protection. When people feel energetically or physically unsafe, they sometimes start putting up energetic protection for themselves, and this is normally okay and helpful in many situations. However, sometimes a person can start to design all kinds of protection that they might think is good but could actually cause energetic damage. There are many ways to do this, as there's millions of ways to create issues within your own energy body, but if it scans up as in a reading, then we don't need to know the details. We just need to know there is an issue and request the right repair for this damage to be fixed and repaired for the person. Positive protection will never scan up. We're only looking for negative self-protection. I wanted to give you some examples of the most common ones I come across. Energetic entanglement. So energetic entanglement with an entity happens when someone tries to get rid of an entity for themselves or for someone else without the right knowledge. And this can sometimes create the person's energy body to be entangled with the entities. So the entity is no longer just attached, but entwined with the person, and this makes it harder to remove. So energetic entanglement with an entity happens when someone's trying to self-protect themselves, or they're trying to protect somebody else. So this can sometimes happen even when it comes to hands-on healers. I've had many hands-on healers come to me because they've done a healing trying to remove an entity, and yet they've ended up with entanglement issues of the entity. And sometimes someone will come to me and say that they went to a healer to try and get rid of an attachment, and after the healing they actually felt worse and they felt the entity clinging on more. So this is some of the examples that can happen when it comes to entanglement with entities. So it is important to know the right way to clear entities, especially if you're doing hands-on healing, because you can create something to become entangled instead of just attached. And as you can imagine, trying to clear something that's now entangled in your energy body instead of just attached to it is two different ball games. So I find that when clients come to me at this level of entanglement with entities, if I was doing a hands-on healing for them, it would take me quite a long time to literally sit there and untangle all the energetics of the entity and the person. I have found going into the records and clearing entanglement issues with entities this way so much quicker, so easy. It's just so much more efficient to do it this way. So I am happy to say that if you have people coming to you with this type of entanglement with entities, you're going to be able to help them really quickly and really simply. So that's a really good thing. Smoke screens. Now, smoke screens are used mainly by negative souls, but sometimes a positive soul will use it for protection. It's a technique where the person creates a smoke type of effect within their energy body that allows them to go unseen. The problem is that if a positive soul uses this technique, then it's usually done unconsciously, and then the person isn't aware that they have done it. So they're not able to remove it, and this can cause the person to start losing touch with themselves and feel invisible in the world. So smoke screens are not like something that I would say is very common, but it is common enough to come across from time to time. Now, like I said, negative souls use this technique all the time, but positive souls do occasionally also unconsciously use it for protection. So the technique is usually used by the person creating sort of like a smoke effect within their energy body, and it's kind of an effect to make the person kind of hidden behind the smoke. Now, it is a deception device by negative souls, but when it's used by a positive soul, it is just for protection. Now, like I said, if the person unconsciously does it, it means that they're not able to consciously remove it. So this is when they can get trapped in their own smoke and feel very invisible to everybody else because the smoke hasn't been removed. So the protection that they once used, no matter what it was for, becomes a really negative thing because they're not able to remove it, and it creates a negative effect for them. Mirrors. Now, mirrors are used in many ways by positive and negative souls, but when it comes to negative self-protection, it means the person out of protection has consciously or unconsciously put mirrors all around their energy body while awake or asleep in order to protect themselves from something. Now, the problem is that if it's done unconsciously, the person isn't aware of the mirrors needing to come down, and this creates a fake reality within their own energy matrix. If left up too long, the person will start identifying with the reflection of the mirrors and not their true self-identity or soul signature. So this particular negative protection technique you will probably find quite a lot, mainly because there's so many energy teachers out there teaching people to protect themselves by using mirrors. Now, I am not a fan of using any protection devices. I know a lot of people are surprised by this, but I actually don't spend any time putting protection up around my energy body. The reason is I believe that doing those types of things can cause other energetic damage that you don't necessarily know straight away. I actually believe that if I don't put up protection and I just do the inner work to clean up the attaching mechanisms and the energetic root causes that allow the attaching mechanisms, if I'm doing the inner work, then that's all I need to do. And I know that when I still get attacks, you would think that, well, why don't you just put protection up? But my personal philosophy is, if I'm putting protection up and I'm trying to protect everything from negative from coming in, then I'm never going to be able to see the pathways and attaching mechanisms to remove it. So putting up protection for me is just avoiding the actual internal healing work. So I don't want to do that. Anything that comes externally into my field that's negative shows me a pathway and an attaching mechanism that needs to be removed, and that allows me to become more sovereign and therefore truly start to protect myself in a more long-lasting and sustainable way. So going back to the mirrors, if somebody's putting up mirrors for protection or deception, they can be used either way. But let's just say a positive soul, because that's who you're going to be working with. A positive soul's put up mirrors for protection. Now, if they haven't been able to remove those mirrors after the threat's gone, then, like I said, they can start to actually over-identify with the reflection of the mirrors and not their soul signature. And as you can imagine, that's a pretty shitty existence, because it's a really, really hard place to be in if you're only seeing a reflection that's not even a true reflection of actually your soul signature. It's going to create a lot of distortion, a lot of problems, and definitely derail you on your purpose track. War zone protection. So war zone protection is what I call a self-made protection, where the person has created all kinds of traps and alarms within their energy body, and could have also set up guns and other devices that explode or fire when something enters the person's energy body. Now, this type of protection is dangerous to the person and to anyone else connected to the person. It isolates them in their own little inner war zone and can create mental issues from extreme fight or flight response within the person's central nervous system. So war zone protection I have come across quite a lot, and I would probably say that I find that this type of extreme protection I do find more in males than females, but I still find a lot of females do this as well. So it is definitely, if I was to say like a statistic, I would find that 80% of males do this type of war zone protection, and like 20% of females that I've seen. So more of a male thing, but definitely not exclusive to females as well. But if somebody's feeling quite threatened, or it's usually because the person's feeling negative beings and they haven't got a frame of reference. They have no idea how to navigate it. So sometimes people will sit in their energy body, and because they're afraid, they'll start setting up all these traps and guns and kind of stuff all around their energy body in order to try and keep themselves protected and to feel safe. So what I find with this type of thing is the person, usually it's over a long period of time, especially, at night time when they're feeling unsafe asleep, before they go to sleep. Sometimes in order to go to sleep and feel protected, they'll kind of set up all these booby traps and special things and trip wires and, kind of things like that in their energy body in order for them to feel safe enough to go to sleep. This becomes really, really complicated because the person is doing so much work and putting so many things in their energy body that there's almost no way and impossible for them to clean it up. So sometimes these people become really, really intensely isolated within their inner world, and their central nervous system's on such fight or flight because they're constantly in a war zone. So it's almost like they lock themselves down in their inner world, in this war zone, out of protection. And as you can imagine, this type of protection can create a lot of issues. And I do see a lot of mental health issues come from this type of protection if it's left too long. So if you come across someone with a warp zone protection, you know, it depends on how long it's been there, but they could literally need some help in order to understand that putting up protection in this way is not the best thing for them. If they do really need to put something up, they need to know how to remove it, or they need to consciously decide to move it, because something in the energy body that's not meant to be there will create issues for the physical body, even if we've done that. Because if we're putting a big giant wall up, or we're putting some big sword up, or we're putting some sort of shield up in our energy body, and it's not meant to be there, even if we've put it there, it's going to create energetic issues and damage, because it's something really big in the energy body, and our energy body is designed so intricately to flow. So anything we kind of stick in there out of some sort of, you know, fear response is going to create energetic distortion within our energy flow, and that will lead to issues and also physical health issues as well. Energetic armor. So energetic armor is something created around someone who feels the need to protect themselves, especially when it comes to love and heartbreak. This technique usually ends up suffocating the person and blocking them from connecting with others. On occasions, I've had to remove this type of energetic damage from people who have gone to see someone for energy work, and the person has told them they need to protect themselves and that they will create protection for them, and they have put up some full-on armor for the person. But then they've had to come to me because they're not feeling themselves and they're feeling really disconnected. So energetic armor is a very, very common one to come across. A lot of people feel like they need to put armor around their heart because they're from heartache, or they're just oversensitive. So a lot of people try and guard their heart, and they try and put armor around it. So it's a very common one to come across. It's also quite common, unfortunately, that people go to a healer, a hands-on healer, and because they're going there for some sort of heartbreak, or they're, just really oversensitive and something's really hurt their heart, sometimes the healer will say, you need to protect your heart. I will put something around it to protect you. And sometimes I've found that the person that's come to me because they're just not feeling good after a certain healing, when I've gone into their energy body, the healer has created some sort of massive armor protection around the person's heart in order to protect them. But unfortunately, it's not protecting them. That's sort of an armor around your heart. It's going to create some really massive issues. It's going to create the person to feel so disconnected from life, so disconnected from others, so disconnected from their passions, so disconnected to the earth. It's going to create so much disconnection because the heart is the center point of connection. It is the connector. So, having a big armor around your heart is going to literally disconnect you from all things. So, not a technique to be using. It is important to educate the person that trying to protect their heart is not going to give them the life that they want. What they do have to do, they have to learn to lean into emotions. They need to learn to not run away from negative emotions. They need to learn to see negative emotions as feedback. Suffering is a choice. Suffering happens when you don't see negative emotions as feedback and course correct. Suffering happens when negative emotions keep showing us something's not right and we ignore that. Then we end up suffering because we're ignoring the cues. Attaching mechanisms. This is mainly always created by ourselves and can be created consciously or unconsciously. On occasions, it can be a result from someone else who have created the protection for the person, such as a healer or friend, who thought they were doing the right thing. Using white light and love for protection is the safest type of protection, as it's a frequency and not a technique, and this means safe as well as effective for most normal situations. Using protection, if we're going to use any protection at all, I do recommend just using like light and love as a frequency. And I don't mean the wanky light and love. I mean like literally using the frequency of divine organic love, or that tapping into your heart space that you know is that divine organic love frequency, and using that frequency, actually feeling or thinking of something that really brings you into that space of love, and bringing that love and feeling it coming through, but actually feeling it from your heart amplifying out as well. So I personally don't like to pull things down too much until I've anchored into my heart first. So if I'm going to do any type of energy work in this type of way, I would first feel really tap into my heart, tap into that absolute divine love sort of spot within my heart that I know is completely authentic and real and true. And from that space, I would kind of work on amplifying it and amplifying it and amplifying it and amplifying it until it's literally bursting out of my chest, and it's bursting around me at a 360 degree angle. So once I've got my heart activated and I'm amplifying love all around me, that's when I'll sometimes, if I feel like I need to, then I might bring light, down through my crown and just shower myself with gold light or white light, whatever works for you. But the main thing that's doing the work is your heart. Your heart is amplifying all around you. Love is the love frequency is the most powerful at protection. Now, it's not going to protect against certain things, negative alien technology and stuff like that. It's not going to blast all that out, but it definitely does get rid of a lot of the lower, weaker frequencies and negative energies. It can be enough to also push away psychic attack and psychic knives and all that sort of stuff. The main thing that I think is more important with that particular kind of technique is it helps strengthen and heal the heart as well. So if you did this daily, you would be blown away at how much your heart can open. There's so much love. And most humans, they can only take in a little inch at a time. So through this process, developing a really open heart. So if you are someone who has a closed heart, this is a really good technique. It's an easy technique, but it's really, really effective. Cultivating first, you have to find the spot in your heart that you can feel holds that divine love. Sometimes people have to search around in there, because if it's not something that you've been cultivating, then it's harder to pinpoint. Sometimes it feels like finding a needle in a haystack, but the dedication to find that freaking needle is so worth it, because once you can pinpoint that spot and you can start just working on building that to become then the size of a pea, and then you can work on making that the size of an apple, and then you can make that the size, kind of get it bigger and bigger. And this is this is not going to happen in one session. I really want to make that clear. Some people might have the capacity to do that, but some people will have to spend a long time doing it. But it is, for me personally, I can't imagine anything more important than actually making sure your heart is open. So I'll stop going on about that. But if you are someone who, your heart is not all the way open, or you're afraid and protecting, doing this will not only open your heart, but it strengthens your heart. You want to have a strong, open heart. You want to feel like you can love without any fear, because you know that you're not able to be hurt. You know your heart's not going to be hurt. You know that you can heal from anything, and it's just an experience. You want to get to that level of love in order to just live life according to your design and according to what comes through you. Being afraid of things and being afraid of being hurt, will never let you live the life you're designed to be, and that's guaranteed. The results in a person. So depending on the kind of negative protection going on, but it can result in becoming entwined with an entity, losing touch with themselves and feeling invisible in the world, identifying with the technique and not their true self-identity or soul signature, isolating, not feeling themselves and feeling very disconnected are just some of the results. But when it comes to negative self-protection, I do find that the most common theme is people just feel disconnected. You know, the more protection they put up, the more disconnected they feel from themselves and from others and the earth. And that can be really lonely, really isolating, and it can also create mental health issues if it goes on for too long. Lifespan. Negative self-protection usually is a present life issue, but you can find people who have been trapped in negative self-protection for lifetimes out of choice. If someone has negative self-protection going on, then it will show up and it cannot hide. Positive self-protection will never show up, and you can't remove positive self-protection even by accident while working in the Akashic Records. When you're in the records doing this type of reading, a positive self-protection will never scan up because we're not looking for it, and there is absolutely nothing that you could do in the records that could change that positive protection anyway. So you don't have to worry about touching things that you're not supposed to. You're only looking for negative self-protection, and no matter what you did, you could never do any harm to somebody in the Akashic Records. You could only take away the stuff that their soul has basically agreed at soul level to allow you to touch and remove. And there's absolutely no positive things that you could change, and there's no key code corruptions that you can implement in the Akashic Records because you are not directly touching or accessing the person in any way. You're just asking questions, and then you're requesting things in the records. You're not actually doing it. So that's why it's so safe. When you go to an energy worker, that's a different story. The person doing a hands-on healing, they can do things to frick stuff up. They can do negative things. They can change positive things to be negative. So that's the difference. If somebody is directly in your energy body, they're the ones that can do those sorts of things. So that's why it's really important, if you ever go to someone to get hands-on healing work, that you really, really trust them, that you really, really trust their integrity, and you also trust their level of consciousness, because if they don't really understand shit, the chances are they're going to do something that's not quite in alignment, or they could have negative things coming through in order to stuff things up. So, you know, integrity and also their level of consciousness is really important, and choosing from your gut, really feeling into your body, because that's, you know, that shit's got the most direct and most reliable responses. And it's nice to know that negative self-protection, it will never hide. You will always find it. Very easy, come up instantly, so it won't hide. But it can be from past lives, but that is also very, I won't say it's like so unusual that you won't find it. It's common enough that you will probably find it a few times throughout the time, but it's not going to be something that shows up all the time. It would have to have been pretty full on in a past life and really upheld in order to carry through into this lifetime, but it has happened purely out of choice.